John DeSando.
Classics, let's go to the movies and share some popcorn, soda pop with our friends. Turn off our cell phones and get away. Night or day, it's John DeSando on the radio. We'll watch the credits from up high and low. Cinema Classics on NPR.
Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando. It airs Thursdays at 8:01 p.m. on WCBE 90.5 FM. Listen to shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John
And
DeSando,
I'm Wayne Miller.
and this is Cinema Classics.
It is.
And-
Now, I was expecting to see dune buggies in this movie, but
Yeah, or at least a little pile of sand.
yeah,
Something.
yeah. Well, the sand was sparkly with all the rich spices, and of course, we're talking about Dune 2, the sequel to the 2021 first one.
Yeah, it's Dune Part 2, and when the first one came out, I was kind of, okay,
Yeah.
this is long, and
Yeah.
this is, so I wasn't necessarily looking forward to the Dune Part 2 today. But I tell you, I was impressed.
I was very impressed too because, like you, I wasn't all that thrilled. I thought, oh, okay, there's Dune coming out again. And of course, people may remember decades ago the Dune with Kyle MacLachlan,
Oh, right.
that played the hero that Timothy Chalamet plays in this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And but then there was even a mini-series on Dune not that long ago. And I'm thinking, oh, are they going to beat this thing to death? And like you, I was pleasantly surprised.
Well, what makes it work?
Now, as a historian, and fortunately this weekend, I went back to remind myself the storyline that preceded this movie, just to find out, who the characters are. All these different houses of families that were, taking over things, and the poor people that basically rooted around in the sand for these spices on that the Fremont or what they're called.
Fremen, yes.
Fremen, and it's Ericus or the planet. Anyhow, and that's where the first one ended. That nearly the hero's family was wiped out, basically, except for he and his mother.
Yes.
And then they make it, and they.
Chalamet's Paul.
Yeah.
Let's at some point parse all the biblical references.
Oh, well, not only that, but John, my God, the one thing, and probably during Double Take, that we'll talk a little bit more about some of these similar type movie franchises, which comes to mind, Star Wars.
Very good.
And at least their names were pronounceable. This one, the only one, and of course, I really have to tease our good friend and also fellow podcaster and movie critic on your show, Audrey Harkonnen.
Oh, yeah.
And the big baddies, and one baddie was really big.
I think they'll be
Like a
different.
he could have passed for Jabba the Hutt in the one Star Wars movie.
That's right.
But their last names are Harkonnen.
Yeah, and I think they have a double N. One of the two has.
Yes.
Yeah, Audrey doesn't, but I have to ask
Audrey
Audrey.
does not.
She's coming by today, and I have to ask her if there's something about her name that somebody would pick that name.
Yeah, and to ask her, knowing her film trivia knowledge, she probably remembers the early one. I doubt if she saw the first one.
Yeah.
And she's not maybe all into that, the science fiction and stuff. And we're on the cusp of enjoying science fiction shows, movies and stuff like
Yes,
that.
yeah.
Not totally swayed like some of our friends, like the Hakes and Kevin, that are huge
Sure.
sci-fi kids.
Well, one of the things that makes it for me is that there is some characterization. Now, I think there are others, and we will, again, Double Take, talk about other epics.
Yeah.
But on this one, an attempt to chisel out some characters,
Yeah.
rather than just the expansive shots. And
Yeah.
and Denis Villeneuve, the director,
Yeah.
certainly knows how to work his camera.
Oh, wow. And Really so, and you really kind of felt what the characters were living through, even though it's hard to do in some of these movies to identify with them.
Well, look at, look at Paul, Chalamet's character.
Yeah.
Has grown up considerably in 2.5 years
Yes.
since we last saw him.
Yeah.
And he is now ready to take over as a kind of messiah.
Exactly.
And that allows us to think of all kinds of parallels, even in current global situations.
Yeah.
And especially our role as messiah, which we're trying to get over,
Yeah.
that we have done in places like Vietnam.
Exactly.
Where we are the outsider. He's an outsider.
He's an outsider, and he, and of course, his family kind of ruled the place after the big bad emperor. I think effectively played by a dewy-eyed Christopher Walken.
Not enough, as
Oh.
far as I'm concerned. Boy, do they miss his snark.
Oh, yeah.
They just didn't give him a chance.
But he's kind of like the emperor, but not nearly as ugly.
Of another
as,
planet.
Yeah, he's an emperor, but also looks like a colonizer. And
Yeah,
so,
and he allowed this massacre.
And the Harkonnens did have this, ruled over this valuable planet that had spices. And and I think maybe once again in a double take we could get into it, but as a historian, I really kind of thought about some of the early exploration of our planet, and colonization was going after a trade route for to get the spices from the east, and from China and India and stuff like that. But so the big baddies, the Harkonnens, ruled it, but then the emperor somehow made them leave, and then Paul's family took over the thing. And that's where, but that's what I had to read up to get, I thought, my God.
Listen, neither one of us is going to admit to having not read the novel, but I haven't. And fortunately, I have a philosophy, as you know, that I don't like to read them before I see a movie. Because that way we're not falling into the black hole of making the comparison. Exactly. Well, in Herbert's novel, happened, and boy, people love that, but I don't at all. This is a movie and we're going to evaluate it on its merits as a movie.
And of course, we even have friends that don't even like seeing the trailers for movies.
Well, I know, and I don't blame them, and I understand what they're saying. Now listen, so in any epic, any good film, you're usually going to have a romance. What do you think about Paul and Chani?
Well, I'm a big fan of Zendaya. I think she is excellent in everything that she does. And you know that she really was in love with the guy, and you kind of thought that but it was more of a puppy love for him. As at the end, I won't give it away, but I tell you, and it hasn't been announced yet, but the ending is begging for
you think
part 3. I mean, my God, it's kind of like, holy moly.
Well, let's just say one of my other favorite ladies currently is Florence Pugh.
Yeah.
And she's involved because she's the daughter of the emperor.
Right.
Of our good boy there.
So, well, and what was so funny, John, I just loved her outfit. She had like this like little sparkly headdress that made her look a little bit like a flapper from the 1920s.
She did.
Or one of these things that you drape over a lampshade. But still, her very cute looks about her really fit.
Hiding something of a menace underneath that. I mean, there's much more to her than would appear in just her cute visage.
Well, and of course, and you find out why Paul is supposedly a messiah is that his mother is involved in this mystical group called the Sisterhood or something like that. That was kind of like, okay, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And they have really interesting. I bet they look like they have those full body outfits.
But you mentioned
toe.
You mentioned his mother Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson.
Yes.
Now there's a menace. I think that she is a bit along the lines of Lady Macbeth.
Oh, could be very well.
And boy,
yeah.
is she a manipulator behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
yeah, and Lady Macbeth looked like somebody had put a newspaper over her face. You know, the little tattoos.
All right.
Okay,
You
we're
mentioned double take, and we have time to do a whole bunch of things in double take.
Yeah.
But right now, Wayne Miller, the movie is Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
Number one, it really helps if you'd seen the first one 3 years ago. I think it's a very enjoyable movie. Yeah, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
And and what really makes it for me, of any of the characters, is Austin Butler. As the bad guy with the bald head, kind of reminds me of your little Oscar here.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that,
Yeah.
with the bald head and the toothless grin with black,
Yeah,
gums.
he goes considerably over the top. He's not Elvis at all.
Oh, man,
No
yeah.
guitar, but he is
He is a bad guy.
he is a bad guy, and adding to, and I would just say that one of the other pleasantries for me is Josh Brolin coming back.
Yes, Josh Brolin's very good, but also Javier Bardem.
Oh,
does a good job
please,
in
yes,
this, too.
yeah,
But I would recommend
he's
John.
a Fremen leader.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm John DeSando.
Classics, let's go to the